You're listening to the Counterculture Mom Show. Our kids are under fire every day, with the media and pop culture persuading them to give up their faith and Christian values. Stay tuned now as former Hollywood actress and pop culture expert Tina Griffin helps you counter these messages and safely navigate today's pop culture chaos.
Over 951 cubic feet of granite make up the 11 pieces of the monument. The overall height is 19 feet 3 inches from the surface of the ground to the top of the capstone.
Thank you. Congratulations.
There are slots and holes in the center stone that have astrological significance because they have been cut at precise angles to permit accurate readings of the sun and moon at various times of the year.
Standing on the highest point of Elbert County, the Georgia Guidestones have raised a lot of questions. 4 upright stones more than 16 feet high, with support stones totaling almost 238,000 pounds. And there's a message sandblasted in 12 languages in letters 2 inches tall. The sponsors of the mysterious project are said to be an anonymous group of out-of-state Americans promoting the concept of the conservation of mankind. Here's the mystery, though. Elberton granite businessman Joe Findlay was contacted to build the project by a man using the fictitious name of R.C. Christian. Granite City Bank President Wyatt Martin served as intermediary, handled the escrow account for all funds, and says he'll carry the secret of who R.C. Christian is to his grave. Well, in spite of what we don't know, Congressman Doug Bernard dedicated the Guidestones with an open mind.
We must stress today the need for self-control, for self-restraint, and yes, self-government, all of which I interpret in this Georgia Guidestone.
The sense of permanence is there, and we do know this. The Georgia Guidestones are some of the largest granite monuments ever erected, and they can be seen for years to come on Georgia Highway 77, 7 miles north of Elberton.
God has taken Sheila Holm around the globe, church to church, business to business, nation to nation. Many confirm she walks in the fivefold ministry. God introduces her before she arrives, provides what is required, fills her as an empty vessel while she's in the midst of the multitude on each continent. He sends her as an apostle and prophet and orchestrates all arrangements for her to preach, teach, and evangelize. This is the Counterculture Mom Show. I'm your host, Tina Griffin, and our mission is always to expose the lies of the enemy and blast the truth to the masses. This will be an eye-opening series as we dive in deep discussing the New World Order with Ambassador for Christ, Sheila Holm. Sheila, how you doing today?
Well, I'm great. And all of us who represent him are an ambassador for Christ. So I never want people to think he loves me 1 ounce more than he does anybody else. I'm surrendered, and we got to get the job done.
Absolutely. Sheila, I wish we would have met about 25 years ago. We would have been on the phone about 30 hours a week discussing what we both were diving in deep on and God exposing to us decades ago. I cannot wait to interview you today on the Georgia Guidestone, specifically in this part 1. We're doing a 2-part series with you. I know after the second part, I'm going to wish we would have had you for 10 parts, but let's get what we can for today. People attending your meetings and conferences often hear the Lord speaking right through you in their own language without a human translator present. What do you have to say to that?
It happened in San Diego. I don't typically get to speak in San Diego, and I'm from San Diego. And they had all the different Hispanic, Spanish, Castilian, Cuban, all the different people there with all the different languages in Portuguese, because San Diego is also Portuguese. And so I had all these translators lined up on the front of the stage, and they were all translating into their language. Well, everybody went into the gift of laughter and from the Holy Spirit, and then they were all reacting. And next thing you know, all the translators went into the gift of laughter, and everybody's down for the count with the Holy Spirit, just getting direct messages that he can give in 45 seconds that I can't give in 45 minutes. And when all this is happening, there's only 2 women, and they stand up and they shuffle over to the side wall. And so I went over to see if they were okay. And when I came close to them, they went into the gift of laughter. And so I asked Father, what do you want me to do? He said, keep talking. So I kept going forward and saying things, but nobody was really sitting there like regular people listening to me. And afterwards, I asked the translators, I said, you guys were all in the gift of laughter. What happened? And they said, everything coming out of your mouth was already coming out in all the languages. We didn't have to translate.
Oh my word. That just put chills from head to toe. When you speak next, no matter where it is, can you let me know so I can be there in person?
Absolutely. I'll send you my schedule.
That is just phenomenal. How long have you lived in San Diego? For a while?
Well, the joke is I was there as long as they walked in the promised land before he sent me to Georgia to start researching the Georgia Guidestones versus the Faith Monument. I love that video that you shared because the Georgia Guidestones are only 19 feet tall. That's their power number, 19. That's why they did that to us. That's why that little CB19, they did it in 19. It started in 19. It didn't start in 20. It was already happening to people in California and Washington. They were coming in to the West Coast with that in 2019 because 19 is their power number. So the whole thing that we're facing, we have no idea how deep the evil is and how deep it goes. And even what we know on the surface, we don't know.
It's unreal.
We don't really.
Let's take it from the very beginning, because when you were researching that, I was in the Hollywood Hills working on movie sets, researching the Georgia Guidestones and the depopulation plot from the pit of hell. I've been talking about it since I was practically in diapers. But some of these questions I don't know, and I'm so excited to dig in deep. So I start at the foundation level here. Can you tell us what is the connection between King George of England, Georgia in Russia, and Georgia in America?
King George III in England was the architect of all of this. But everything was done at the high secret levels in all the secret societies. And of course, the kings, the rulers, are all in the societies. That's what they brought into America. They said it was brand new. It was a brand new idea, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not true. And so when Father sent me to Georgia, I had no idea how severe it is, how they plant all the seeds. They seed everything in Georgia to destroy America. It's not just the creature of Jekyll Island. It's not just the Georgia Guidestones. The Durham case, Sussman, they wanted Sussman to be arrested. Get a chance, read the Durham case. If you don't have the pages, I'm going to send them to Tina, so she'll have the pages. And what do they identify? Bank 1, Russia. Bank 3, Russia. Lead Tech. When they talk about the techs that were behind the whole Russian hoax against the president, what you need to know, it was all created out of thin air. It was done at Georgia Tech, Atlanta, Georgia. Why? The DNC, the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton campaign paid Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia to create the whole thing out of thin air. None of it is true. None of it is factual. It was all drawn up and then just perpetuated through all the media that this was the truth and he had done these things, et cetera, et cetera. And then that Flynn had done these things. They just keep encroaching. It's all because Georgia is the king's key point in America. When they were done with him, they poisoned him. When they were done with Jefferson and Adams, they poisoned them. When Monroe said that we've got to, the Monroe Doctrine, the basis of it is we've got to stop allowing this infiltration. They're bringing all the tyranny that the Pilgrims got away from here. We've got to stop it because it's overtaking our nation.
Absolutely.
They killed Jefferson and Adams on our 50th anniversary of our nation. Unreal. And on the 55th anniversary, they took out Monroe. Why would they do all of this on July 4? So God said, look up King George. And I said, Lord, there's so many King George. You never told me which King George. So he said, well, where did we put Georgia Guidestones? I said, in book 3 of the series. He said, well, what chapter did I make you move it to? Because I had it in 6, the number of man. I do Sheila stuff once in a while, and then God has to correct it. So he moved it up to chapter 3. And he said, so maybe we should look up King George III. So when I looked him up, he was taken out on January 29 of 1820. The 2 presidents, 26, Monroe, 31, all before the Civil War. And they were all taken out because they were the truth speakers about what was going on and how we were already operating against the Constitution.
Okay, so can we break that down? If there's newbies to the program, I knew about half of what you just said, like as far as individual topics, but can you connect the dots for us on why did they set up the Georgia Guidestones in the U.S.? Once again, who's behind it? What corruption was Bill Clinton involved with this? Because Bill Clinton, I've been researching him, literally the Clinton Chronicles when I was 16 is the whole reason God took me down this path of learning about and exposing the elites for the last literally 31 years.
The Jace case is a pack of 5 antibiotics. We put these antibiotics together very purposefully. They were curated in a way that covers the most common as well as the most deadly bacterial infections that you might encounter. In addition, it includes a guidebook to the safe use of the medications that is written in a way that's accessible for most people to be able to look up what their symptoms are and what the proper medication is to take. The idea behind the Jace case is to allow everyone to be better prepared medically, to be empowered to care for themselves.
Since the pandemic began, our healthcare industry has had to transform. From receiving medication to physician visits, everything changed. Jace Medical is dedicated to providing proper access to medications before you need them. This protects against issues during travel or disruptions with supply chains, natural disasters, and other emergency situations that have proven to overwhelm our healthcare system. Secure your own supply of medication with ease and peace of mind.
Use code TINA for a discount at jacemedical.com.
I am passionate about my health and taking care of myself and my family. One company that I'm very excited to partner with is Ascent Nutrition. They provide holistic nutritional supplements for us and our pets, and they have the most incredible organic, mold and mycotoxin-free coffee on the planet. Their pine needle extract includes wild harvested pine needles, which improves immunity and brain function. I'm also using their humic and fulvic acid, which binds to heavy metals, supporting detoxification and increases my energy level. Their pine pollen tincture is a great support for libido and hormone health, and they have the cleanest source of omega-3s in their algae oil DHA, which is essential, especially for us moms and our kids. Head to goascentnutrition.com/Tina and use code Tina at checkout to save 10% off on your entire order. That code can be shared with others, so spread the word. 10% off using code Tina at goascentnutrition.com/Tina. Let's get our body back on track together. Our ministry of over 24 committed grandparents, parents, and yes, even teens exists because of your prayers and donations. If you are not currently a partner with us and would love to help us reach more people through the production of this show or through live speaking events, you can give through our website, counterculturemom.com, by clicking on the pink donate button at the top of the page. Your donations will greatly help us reach more and more people via radio, TV, podcasting, and all the rest. It also helps us cover the cost of reaching thousands of students at schools and conferences throughout America. We received this email 20 years ago from a student when I spoke at her school assembly. Hi, Tina. My name is Kim, and you came to my school to speak. I just wanted to tell you how much you inspired me. I've always wanted to be someone to make a difference in people's lives in the way that isn't cliche or by the book. Lately, I've been sort of questioning what I want to do with my life, but you reminded me today. And we want to continue doing that as the Counterculture Ministries team. Once again, if you'd like to donate and help us reach more of America's future leaders, just go to counterculturemom.com and click on that pink donate button. Thank you for helping us reach more people in this critical hour. King George, exactly who was he? Why did they set the Georgia Guidestones right here outside of Atlanta, Georgia? And what is the reason for the Georgia Guidestones?
The Georgia Guidestones were the like electrical grid, they call it, with all the obelisks in the world. And so people came from all over the world to worship. And you heard in that little video, it's like the tallest granite monument ever erected. Our faith monument that nobody knows about is 81 feet tall. That's 4.3 times the size of 19 feet tall. And it's all, there's only 2 kingdoms. So this is all part of the other kingdom. Clinton was a Rockefeller. People didn't know that. Hillary's a Rockefeller. They're first cousins. And the Hillary that did State Department, I don't know if the woman he was married to before that couldn't keep him controlled at all was allowed to stay. I don't know. That's up to deeper research. But backing up into the Georgia Guidestones, it was put up and paid for by the Rothschilds. Yes. Now here's the humor. The flag, the lion in England, the lion in England was considered the tyranny capture. On the faith monument, liberty is sitting on the head of the lion. The lion is what they put on the top of the casket of Diana. It was on the top of the casket of Philip. It was on the top of the casket of the Queen. And it's that stand-up lion. What is the main symbol on the crest for the Rockefellers and the Rothschild? Is a stand-up lion.
Wow.
What was the flag they did when they took over and became the state of Israel? It was the two lions facing the menorah in the middle. That was the flag in Israel. And now it's the Star of Remphan. So let's back up into the Guidestones, and the Guidestones were paid for by Ted Turner, the Rothschild, became part of the Eugenics Society, which
Yes.
transferred over from the Theosophical Society. And the name of the man for the pseudonym, and they didn't even spell it properly on the slab to the left of the Guidestones, it was misspelled. But R.C. Christian is Robert Clark Cook. And the joke is, after my book came out, they changed it on the internet to say Robert Carter Cook. This man was a lot older than Carter, and his middle name was Clark Cook.
And you're saying Ted Turner was the one that funded the Georgia Guidestones going up?
As a Rothschild, when his dad was suicided across the road from his childhood home, he ended up, remember they said that they were over a billboard company? You don't become a multi-millionaire back in the day on billboards. It just, the money isn't there. No matter how many billboards you put up, the money just isn't on little paper billboards on the side of the road.
Right.
And so he said he took over his dad's company, and that's how he became a multimillionaire. Well, he agreed to do what his dad wouldn't do. And so they don't all have the names of Rothschild, but they are family lineage because these families took over the rulership of the nation, so they all have concubines. They all have other women that are having children in their name. And
Okay.
so
Some of the research of all this, can we find it on your website, hisbest.org?
this is all in the books. And the book series For the Sake of America, it's now 5, but 6 and 7 will be out soon. The For the Sake of America prophetic word that came from 3 prophets who went by the name brother because they were done being with all these titles, and now I'm officially a prophet, and I'm not a real prophet. I'm a false prophet. All this stuff started happening, and they just decided to remain as brothers and sisters in Christ. So even the pastors they worked with in Georgia took on the name brother. So in Macon, Georgia, all 3 of these guys came on an often basis, but I didn't know anything about them. Never met with them, never talked with them, but their people were told to give this information to the person and God would direct them. And what happened on this word and vision for the sake of America, if you can picture the state of Georgia, and there's a huge angelic structuring that God provided over Macon, which is it has a lot of satanic background and satanic portals over Macon. And then he did the same thing over Moravian Falls, North Carolina, which is up at the very top of North Carolina. God took me up to that to see what was going on there versus in Macon, where it's still in the top 10 crime in the nation. And so if you draw a line, as the people in Georgia that revealed this to me after I was telling them what I was finding out, that it's exactly halfway between. So if those 2 are the pillars to the eastern gates where he will enter through the eastern gates, the center is exactly going over that high hill in Elbert, Georgia, in a cow pasture where they put up those stones.
That is just wild. Okay, take us to the setup process of the Georgia Guidestones. I mean, I've researched this for, like I said, in my early 20s, especially after I watched the Clinton Chronicles and then moved out to Hollywood. And I would meet people on movie sets that used to work with the CIA, used to work at the White House. I mean, all these political figures. Actually, most people that I met were actually good guys that were now in hiding. And I met them in Hollywood, different places. Can you tell us more about what the Georgia Guidestones are? And we understand why they were placed there, but what are they? What's on them? And you're saying that Ted Turner funded them for what agenda?
It's the depopulation all the way from the garden. Remember, Cain killed Abel. The evil we are dealing with is the same evil every nation is dealt with, because this goes back to the garden. That's why the Guidestones were put up on 322, that in 1980. So March 322 is that power number because it's out of Genesis 322. When God said, now that they know good from evil, lest they eat of the tree of life and live forever. That was the option. But Adam was so ashamed that Adam departed from the garden. And when he departed from the garden, Lucifer's been telling everyone in his kingdom since that we were cursed on this land. When they took out the Georgia Guidestones on 7/6 of 22,
Yes.
that was done at 4:03:33 in the morning, because 4 is structure and 333 represents the angels that fell from heaven, a third of the angels that fell from heaven as lightning.
So, okay,
Lucifer.
let me dissect that. And here's what's funny. The second I heard that went down, at first I was all elated. Yay, they took the Georgia Guidestones down, because I've been talking 20 years about how demonic that thing is. And I'm like, bummer that it wasn't 2 days later and it could have been my birthday celebratory deal. Then I was thinking, hang on a second, they just destroyed a good chunk of carved into rock evidence of what the Luciferians want to do on this planet, which is to depopulate down to 500 million people. That's insane, which I have a question coming up regarding that. Why? Okay, who do you think destroyed it, or who do you know destroyed it, and why did they destroy it?
Well, I do know what happened, and there are pictures of it, and I was honored. I was being honored. Friends put up my books and my ministry on Times Square that morning. And then I wrote to them and I said, you're not going to believe it. The Guidestones are down. Look at these pictures. Can you believe it? Down, da, da, da. And so they contacted the people at Times Square, and they weren't done yet. So they were able to put the picture up. And so the picture shows, and if you look at the picture, they only emphasize where the drone hit it. And that happened at 4:03:33.
Who destroyed it, and why did they destroy it?
It was the team. So the first announcement that came out around 4 in the morning was that there's an earthquake and it's affecting the Guidestones. Now, if there's an earthquake, I'm from California, the earth would be moving and it would be opening up. That's how it would destroy the Guidestones. That didn't happen. Then they closed all the roads around it, wouldn't let anyone in, said it was a bomb that hit the Guidestones. If a bomb would have hit it, there would have been a crater from the bomb. And so there's nothing open from the earthquake.
Correct.
There's no crater from the bomb.
So our team took out the Georgia Guidestones. Who exactly, can you reveal who our team is?
Well, if people want to call it the White Hats, if they want to call it the military that is operating per the Constitution, you can call it anything you want to call it.
Interesting.
But it's they took it out.
Have you ever wanted to start a charity or ministry? Launching a nonprofit can be time-consuming, expensive, and overwhelming. If you have a vision and mission, but don't know where to start or how to raise donations, Capstone Legacy Foundation is your solution. Their ministry charity project allows you to receive tax-free donations without the expense and hassle of forming your own 501c3, and in less than 48 hours. This ministry partnership fund is exactly how Counterculture Ministries got its start, and we grew quickly. Capstone Legacy Foundation handles all your legal and accounting paperwork, allowing you time to develop the ministry and message God gave you. Call Capstone today at 610-688-8890 or check out capstonelegacy.org for more information. And tell them Tina sent you. Partner with Capstone Legacy Foundation to transform our culture for Christ and get your nonprofit started today.
Parents with kids at home, can I ask you something heavy but very important? Deuteronomy says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, to commit wholeheartedly to these commands and repeat them again and again to your children. But what if something happens to you and your spouse and you are no longer around to repeat them to your kids? EpicWill.com is here to help ensure your children are raised by guardians who will honor your legacy and raise them up the way you would want them to be raised. Trust me, you do not want a court deciding who will raise your children. Secure your family today by naming a guardian in your last will and testament, as well as the rest of your early estate building needs, like your advance directive, financial power of attorney, and more at EpicWill.com. We are never guaranteed tomorrow. Start the process now at EpicWill.com and use promo code TINA for 20% off. That's EpicWill.com. Protect your legacy and your children's future. Your website, everybody's going to be flooding over there. I know it already. It's called hisbest.org, and that's exactly what this is. Hisbest.org, everybody. Can you tell us where to go if we're a newbie to your website to get some dirt on what you just explained?
It's in the book series. Book 6 and 7 will be coming out soon, and their 45-point plan against us is a book I'm working on now. It's going to enhance those books. That's why I just found out they aren't out yet, because I'd have to redo them based on that. But they're all on
Unbelievable.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble. They're printed in several nations, so you don't have to deal with electronic devices. After Nook went out, I made sure that they were available everywhere because people lost thousands of books when there's no longer the Nook process for their electronic
Yes.
books.
Absolutely. Okay, for the sake of America, this is a book series you have right here on your website, hisbest.org, and it'll explain in detail what you just divulged on this program today, correct?
Yes, book 3 is focused on the Georgia Guidestones. Well, the Georgia Guidestones and Faith Monument are in all my books. God had me really dig in deep on the Georgia Guidestones in book 3.
Sheila, thank you so much. Everybody out there, go to counterculturemom.com. Donate to our cause if you want us to get more people like Sheila on our program exposing these lies to the masses in this critical hour. You rock, woman. I'm going to see you here back in a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for joining us for the Counterculture Mom Show with your host, Tina Griffin. For over 2 decades, Tina has traveled the globe exposing how pop culture is glamorizing harmful behaviors without showing the consequences, and how these messages are wreaking havoc on today's youth. Through radio, TV, podcasts, and our app, Counterculture Ministries is reaching millions every week with a biblically based message for hope for today's teens and their parents. But we can't do that without your faithful prayer and financial investment. If you appreciate the ministry of Tina and Counterculture Ministries, would you prayerfully consider a generous gift right now? We have a donor matching dollar for dollar. You can give securely online by visiting counterculturemom.com or by texting the word donate to the number 55444. That's counterculturemom.com, or text the word donate to the number 55444. Every dollar is doubled. If you love this show, you can stay up to date on the latest critical issues affecting your family by catching all of our weekly episodes with resource links, signing up for our e-newsletter, and downloading our Counterculture Mom app, where you get timely pop culture alerts. Visit counterculturemom.com for more details. And be sure to join us next week for another edition of the Counterculture Mom Show with Tina Griffin, where we are rewriting Hollywood's script for our kids.